There we go.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
like,
like I was saying, was just like I just there's been times where I felt like it would be beneficial, people, you know, there's been times where it was like really big crews where it was like worldwide, and I was just like, well, I don't really have a personal connection with those people, or you
mhm,
know, I live in a different city, so it's kind of like, is
right.
this going to bring me closer with people, or is it going to distance me? So it just never felt like something that was kind of suited to what I wanted to see in
Mm,
community.
right. For me, when I first made my first crew in Life Feed, Team Rocket, my son Crazy C, Rocket on top,
Hey,
um, it was a family thing, you know what I mean? Like these are my
yeah,
brothers that I came into the dance with. These are the dudes that like I saw myself building with when it came to me figuring out what Life Feed was. Like they helped me, as a collective being there and supporting me and like standing for my vision, standing for the vision that I wanted for Life Feed. They were there in support, and that kind of is why like we formulated the team. But then the team kind of ended up just becoming a brotherhood after the objective got done. But prior to Team Rocket, like I remember being in Two Live Crew because Two Live Crew was just like a crew that inspired me. I remember being in Live Time because Live Time was the first Brooklyn team, and like it was like, yo, that's kind of like your life feed rites of passage. Today, I think you don't see teams anymore because the again, what we talked about earlier, the motive, like on a dance level, what why would you even create the collective, if everybody's personal agenda or their agenda based on like whatever they're watching on media is the driving force to why they dance. It's not about their imagination anymore. So how could you create a collective that's not being spirit about their imagination? You see most collectives that come together maybe to talk about these issues of the world, but then it's only minimalized to a video, because other people don't do the work to study beyond that. And then once you study beyond that, you're not a dance crew anymore. You're kind of like a political crew now or whatever crew now. So in terms of dance crews, I think now it's just a motive. Like I remember back in the day, there were crews of dudes who used to come together because they tut. So they made a tutting crew, a
yeah.
waving crew, a crew of dudes from a certain city, a crew of dudes that have a certain approach. Maybe they all like to animate. Maybe they all like to express themselves in certain movements. Like, when it comes to joining crews, that's one of the reasons why I came in and joined certain collectives. You know what I mean? It wasn't based on like anything outside of that. And I feel like today, maybe you won't see that now because a lot of dance is based on individualism, like people being that star top dancer. Um, and it's also based on the motives. Like, I don't think people are having these conversations like this where it's like, yo, I feel the same way you feel. Yo, let's collectively create something and put that out in the dance world. And that thought could literally just be like, yo, I feel like more people should add a physical type of attribute to their movement. Yo, me too. Like I feel like my muscles can contribute to my musicality, whatever. And yo, let's make a collective and do that. And they
So I
start.
guess, I guess my question would be like, what is it about having uniting under a certain name that would actually progress that further? Because for me, it was always like, well, my fam knows who they are, right? Like I don't need to call it anything.
I think it's the same reason why people name countries and have flags. The
Mm,
nationhood of it, like that's what makes this a culture, man. You know, the fact
yeah.
that you guys collectively came together and said, you know what, moving forward, we're this. And we stand under this banner of whatever, whether it be a hand sign, a handshake, or a flag, or whatever, a T-shirt logo, you know.
See, I think that's what's been missing for me was just like I never had somebody come at me where it was like, yo, we stand for these morals or these convictions, and this is
Mhm.
our mission. So like for me, it was like I never had a crew approach me like that. Where before it was more like it felt like, hey, oh, this dude's killing it. Like let's try and get him under our banner. Like it was more like a a collection of dope people than it was like, what are we trying to do together? Because like to come together, we need to be a force, like in a
Right.
direction. You know, we gotta have a direction that we're all trying to move towards. You know.
Yo, dude, I'm probably associated with a lot of crews, but ultimately I only personally rep two crews. And in those two crews, like besides my family, like the other crew, I look at it as more of a collective and a brother and sisterhood. So I may not ultimately agree with all their ideals or their lifestyles, but again, that's not important for me. What's important is the mission statement of this crew and this collective, and how are we progressing forward to, contribute to this in our own individual way and collectively. And that's why I feel like I'm a part of crews, because I can deal with it. When I used to watch like a lot of anime shows, you would see like certain evil villain organizations with dudes that like totally didn't agree with each other, but they all came together for this one thing, and they all kind of stayed together because even if they went in different places in their life, they all can just form together when it was time to come back for that one thing, or they represent that one thing in their individual lifestyles. I feel like that concept of crew or teams, nobody's thinking that deep about it in this day and time. So I think in that regard, crews are not being generated. And on top of that, most of it is individual. And that comes with the competitions, man. I mean, yo, every day is a competition, and what are the competitions based off of? Winning money. Everybody wants money for themselves. Like breaking shit three ways, if you can get it alone, like you're gonna get it alone 9 times out of 10. Everybody wants that notoriety because it strokes the ego. Then everybody wants that workshop, the specifics, the teaching, the showcasing, and being able to be that star person, self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't
Well,
think about
it's
crews in
like
that point.
we don't even have the economic system that's set up to the infrastructure to support crews in that type of way where it's like, oh, we want this person to come out and teach a workshop, but then it's like, you can't have a whole boy band with you or a whole
Right,
squad.
right,
He's like, what, like a small studio is gonna be able to fly four people out and pay them,
right.
enough to survive. It's gonna be like
Well,
it's got
then
to be
that's
big
but now,
sponsorships.
so now that comes with another question, like it, like, is your financial stability only based on the thing that you do? And to some degree it is, but like for me, I work with an after school part-time, you know what I mean? And that's like my legal income in the States. And then, I travel and make money through dance. But ultimately I always aspired to set myself up where I don't need to make money with dance. I can just experience dance and enjoy dance. And eventually my timeline is like I want to be able to teach and share my knowledge and make money from it, but eventually get to a point where I don't have to live off of it, where I'm like feeding dancers these narratives of they have to be somebody, so they must invest in me so that they can feel like whatever in dance. Like I don't want to create that mindset for myself, because you see that in the dance world. You see a lot of OGs like, if you don't take my class every week, you're not a real whatever. And they're just saying that because they need your money to pay the bills. I didn't want to be that kind of dancer. So ultimately, I think there could be a place where dudes be like, yo, I pay for all of y'all flights and I pay all y'all this select budget, not because it's I have the money to do so, but because the means of this transaction is realistic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's based on the fact that we're not all broke.
yeah,
We're all
yeah.
prospering
I
and we're
think
all
that's
good.
that's a huge thing for people to hear too. Is like, this the ability to work with dance and stuff. Like, it's a small pie out there, and we're all kind of like competing for this little piece. But it's like, if we all had external, like multiple revenue sources that we could contribute, the desperate, the desperation would dissipate. Our whole value as a dancer would go up, because right now what's happening is there's the famous few that make a good living, and then the 99% of all of us are just scraping by or not at all.
Right.
So you have this, there's no middle class in there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then you have this huge disparity between incomes, and what we need to do is elevate that to the middle class, but it can't be through the dance that we can't all do that through dance. So how do we create that middle class? We have to have diversification of income, and then we all bring it back so we can all support each other as far as contributing to like events and the ability to fly
Most
places.
definitely. Yo, I remember you and Stacks, the last conversation you guys had of like the ridiculousness of people not wanting to pay $25 for a jam. When if you think about all the things you're getting out of that jam, it's like, why not? That should
Yeah.
actually be discounted. You should be paying way more. Like,
Even
honest,
workshops too, right? Workshops is
yo,
even more.
I mean, the crazy thing about workshops to me is that, like, again, I had to I grew into this mentality where I appreciated people paying the time, because I honestly felt that there's no amount of money that can make somebody genuinely appreciate what I'm teaching them unless they pay in time.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that I'm opposed to getting to having money, because yo, I want you to pay me, because the only way I'm teaching you this is if you are willing to compensate me for this time, but not compensate me based on this random rate, but compensate me based on what I need. I need
Yeah.
security in your country. I need some type of assurance that I'm going to be okay here, and then I need a certain compensation that you're going to pay me, because if I'm not in your country, I'm in my country, in my state, in my neighborhood, giving back to my community. So I'm taking time away from my community to feed your community. You need to pay me back or compensate me in that way. And that's where the money, as far as like dollars or certain whatever, and it may be a large amount to people, certain rates, but it's based on the magnitude, the weight of it,
Yeah.
not so much how much money you're paying off. It's the magnitude.
Well, yeah, like what you factor into your value, like this is something I think a lot of dancers should think about. Is kind of like, okay, well, me and you, we both live in like two of the most expensive cities in the world, right? But also it's a blessing and a curse, because when you pay us for certain things, it's also you're paying like for us to be in this location that's connecting us directly to the culture that we're bringing to you.
Right.
So as far as like part of your payment is like the ticket you didn't have to buy to come to LA, right?
Yeah.
It's also like I want to produce value in the sense like by saving you time, like the amount of plane tickets I bought throughout the years, the amount of people that I've learned from, all the time that I've invested in you, is like I'm bringing all that to you,
Hmm.
It's like if you had to buy each one of the tickets, like go see all the people that I learned from, and like,
Yeah.
it's impossible to recreate, and it would cost you thousands, like
Yeah. A lot.
hundred
A
thousand
lot.
dollars, it'd be like crazy. So, and
Yeah.
also the thing with teachers is I want people to understand is like if your teacher isn't still continually learning, to me it's like that's a huge part about being a person who shares,
Yeah.
is that they have to be in the continual learning processes themselves so that they can empathize with their students.
Well, yeah, unless it becomes dogmatic. Like, if the teacher is not constantly elevating his or herself, then that means you're just learning a finite point of view that you're sitting in, and you have to regulate your mind to thinking that's the end all be all, because it's his limit, which takes you away from everybody else that may be past his or her limit. So you align yourself with the people that are studying, or and this is where culture comes in, you align yourself with a certain cultural art. Let's talk food, for example, right? Culinary arts is a perfect example of that. There may be a more nutritious way to make a taco, but for some people, they may want the more authentic way. So they pay for the authentic taco that may be less healthier, but that's the experience they want. Whereas versus the veggie taco with the 100% plant-based ingredients, you may want that same taco because that taco fits your health pattern. Same thing for dance. Some people may literally, I'm convinced, it may sound crazy, but even in life feed, some people really just want some silly, like jump around, milli rock, whatever. And that's what they want. I can't tell them that that portion of what they want is wrong, You know, that's what they want. They want that version. I'm not here to give that version, so you need to go to the dudes that teach that version. I'm here to give you this perspective. Now, if you want this perspective, here it is. But now you get to choose and you get to align, you know? And that to me creates a better economic structure because it's not all everybody coming for this one pie. It's people now going to their own pies or the pies that are or the pies that are regulated based on what they do. It's like everybody blazing their own trail. It's making people more individual, where it's not this competitive nature. Like when it comes to the lifey world, and I'm referencing lifey because that's the culture I'm in, and that's kind of like one of the newer dances that are sparking up. There's a constant like pull and tug of like people feeling like they want to be teaching in the countries and whatever because they see the same people from their hood teaching, and it becomes this confusion where like, oh yeah, you know, I want to learn life feed from you because I know you're one of the real ones. It's like you shouldn't want to learn life feed from me because I'm a real life feeder. It's because you know my perspective and you understand how my perspective could possibly help you, you know, or maybe you were inspired by somebody and then they told you like, yo, maybe you should seek Ki-nen out. I don't want to be your life feed teacher just because I'm from New York, you know, and I'm a real reputable life feeder. To me, that's inauthentic. That means you're just basing things on cosmetic, you know, and
So
then the
that's
money.
why it's so important that we have these conversations, man, because these people they can't know you, right? They can't know you. So really the first thing that draws them to you is that you're authentic from the spot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what draws them to you is that you're authentic, but you feel the vibe of there's something that they possess that you would want to get access to. I didn't know, for example, I went to Thunderdome in 2012. Tiny Love took me to Thunderdome to go like just experience the finger tutting culture and just step outside New York. He was going, and I was like, fuck it, I'll go with you. And yo, that was the first time I met Bob and Andre, right? I didn't know
Yeah.
who he was. Everybody was in the car with us talking about like, yo, Bob and Andre, like he's gonna be at the party tonight. Yo, what the fuck is gonna be crazy? And like me being my New York self, I'm like, yo, who's that guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, man, fuck Bob and Andre. I don't know who that is. I'm just ignorant to the fact. And they're like, nah, Ki-nen, wait till you see. And when I saw him, I was like, yo, you know, for all I know, he could have been the most inauthentic animator ever. He could have been lying about everything. But in that moment, the shit that he physically was projecting with his movement, I was like, yo, whatever that is, dog, like how, you know? And I
I
just
gotta
wanted to
get
know,
that.
I wanted to know, like, yo, how? And like, yo, I spent hours talking with him about it, you know what I mean? And like, to me, that's authentic. That's something where if I was to put money towards that, that money would be rich in merit. You know what I mean? Like, yo, here's this. Like, you know, I don't have much, but here, you know? And then for people who genuinely want this information, yo, look, you deserve to be elevated. I want to contribute to your craft. Here's $1,000. Here's $2,000, $3,000, you know, for this workshop or whatever. That starts to build not just a cultural economy, but it builds a very, 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 very strong community because we're now basing things on the weight of the value, how it feels for us, how heavy like somebody like a Tableau's influence is on your heart and how his techniques have helped you elevate your mind as a dancer, you know? To
Yeah.
me, those things, they're money, they're also beyond money. But when you put them together, whatever you get paid is worth it because of the level of genuineness that comes with it because somebody really wants to see you, you know?
Yeah, and we also have to like think about I think the we have to come to a collective kind of understanding of where the money is flowing as well. Like there's in the economic system of dance, there's so much
Mona
Mona's in the
Mona,
building. Yeah. Um,
yo,
so there's
she needs to. I'll let you finish, but there's something about Mona, man. But yeah,
she she crazy. She was so crazy at thesis, yo. Oh my God.
yo,
I was
man,
losing it. I was like, what the fuck?
it's April going on May, and I'm still tripping out.
It was in essence, yo. It was like this.
I'm telling you, and that's the shit I'm talking about. Like, yo, I everybody who like all the women in the dance scene in New York that I like have a personal rapport with. Some of them are at thesis. I was telling them like, you see what she was doing? That's the shit I'm talking about. You know? Like as far as expressing themselves through movement, I was just like, God damn, like for real. And it's
Yeah,
crazy
for all the
because
people watching, if you haven't checked out Mona, check
yo,
her out. Click on
yo,
that link.
yo, yo, like my head is hurting just thinking about that shit, son. Goddamn, thesis was amazing, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
What was I saying? God damn it. Yeah, I was talking. Oh
yo,
yeah, the economic system. So like we have like all this money, right? So like we think about the money as a whole, and we have okay, there's money circulating within our community,
hmm
but there's certain leaks that are coming out, like whether it's for plane tickets or hotel rooms, right? We're paying entities that have nothing to do with our community, right?
right.
So we have to figure out different ways to manage the money that's coming in and going out. The problem is there's way more money going out than there is coming in. So when I was talking about increasing that middle class, we're talking about taking this 99% of the people having some sort of outside income that allows them to come back to the community that contributes to this bigger pie. And then we figure out ways to make the money leave less, right? Like
hmm
whether it's through property management, where we have some sort of like hostel type thing in each city, or we have some sort of sponsorship from airlines, or like we do commercial, but then we have some sort of deal with them so that they allow dancers to fly certain places. So then, I mean, this is idealistically, right? But
Right.
and then also when we talk about food and stuff, when we go to buy food, like it's the same concept as like, when you go to the polls to vote for a president, really you're voting every single day you spend that dollar.
Yeah.
So when you buy Doritos or when you buy McDonald's or you buy certain things, you're voting with that dollar. You're voting for that business. You're voting for that thing. So when we do that as the dance community, we also have to think about where we're spending our money so that we can start to congregate it better.
Okay. I think that I think that aspect of what you're talking about is playing more into the movement art side, you know, because I think just based on history that social dancing, like social dancing in its spiritual conception, is not designed to be sold. That's just my personal opinion. You know what I mean? Because it's based on an experience that is rooted in a culture and community of people coming collectively together to generate something, it's hard to make that a business entity. People have, but you see the chaos that comes with it. Whereas with movement arts, a collective and a community of people can come up with a certain style of movement, tutting, waving, uh, uh, like whatever, you know what I mean? And in that level of movement, there is a sense of culture, community, and history and heritage behind it. But there's a movement quality where it could be compensated for as far as experience, you know. And I like to attribute it to how people play instruments, you know what I mean, or how people like have art galleries or pop-ups. In the gallery world, it's based on a studio that will host you to have an exhibition or whatever. And in the exhibition, there's two types of economics that would often go on. It could be somebody that wants to buy your art, and it also is the salary that you're gonna get for even hosting your art. So the studio can kind of sponsor you and be like, "Yo, I'll give you $10,000 to display your art in my studio." Then you also can make money from people buying it. You know what I mean? In that way, the whole airline and travel and the process of you getting there kind of becomes irrelevant because all your commerce is focused on that entity. You know what I mean? When it comes to playing an instrument, the music, you know, you do a concert, you play, people come to hear that sound and experience that sound. Some people are there paying for the quality of what you're paying, of what you're playing, or they're here to listen to the creative exploration that you're going through with playing it. So it's either quality or exploration. You know what I mean? Some people literally make millions of dollars just playing Moonlight Sonata that was not created by them, but they're just so proficient at it that you pay to watch that excellency. And that level of finance is now based on something that is generated in like, okay, I'm paying this money because this dude learned something that's thousands of years old, so he must get that's like the mentality. He must get compensated for it. All these things, bro, I feel like is rooted in how serious we take our art. You know what I mean? So I think like we can make this like this middle class economy. We can try to get sponsors from airlines and everything, and that can very well happen. I don't think it can be an ideal. I think it could be possible. But if the art isn't serious to a level where there's a discipline behind it, there's a structure of how you carry yourself, and that structure isn't enforced by people saying you have to do this, but through actions, through seeing a high-leveled animator, you're not gonna feel like half-stepping on animation. You know what I mean? To seeing a
Yeah.
high-level light feeder, you're not gonna half-step on light feeder anymore. That's gonna create the economics that we may need, because now people are literally paying for quality stuff, and the money starts to increase as the years of discipline and structure increase. You know what I mean? And then you may get sponsorships, and then fucking JetBlue may be like, yo, what? D Soul from California specializing in this is flying with us. Oh, he flies for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, man. It's really dope to like compare different kind of like business models to
Mm-hmm.
the community, because it's like, okay, is it closer to what you were talking about? Is it closer to is it closer to like a church type system where everybody's like tithing and you
Donating,
got
yeah,
this,
yeah.
yeah, or is it closer to like the reason why I called that the session that I started was the movement co-op, was the
Mm.
idea of a co-op like that we're all like farming ideas, right? And we bring them together, and then like people can come and learn. And like it's the same thing when you have a co-op, a grocery store. People are growing local, like organic food.
And they
They
invest
bring
in
it
it.
together. People pay for it, and it's
Mm.
like the problem is that we're growing all this organic, high level food, but then like the people coming to the store can only afford the stuff that's sold at Walmart. Like it's that's the system that I see. It's like we have this high
Mm.
level art, but we can't really value our art because the audience or the people that are coming to buy the product are of a different like price point.
So you're saying like they can't afford it?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not, I totally understand. I totally understand that. And I feel like that comes, yo, dude, that comes with, I think that becomes more individual, man, than cultural. Ultimately, I
Mhm.
feel like everybody's individual perspective will contribute to the progressive nature of the culture. You know
Oh,
what I
for
mean?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Like
These are just
ultimately,
theories,
yeah, yeah,
It's
for
just
sure. Like
theories.
I feel like if somebody took my perspective and took your perspective and ran along with it, it would help the culture grow. Like I
Yeah.
don't think my perspective is the only one. You know, I feel like multiple people should have these ideas, because that way, that value system that you're talking about could be affordable for people, and they can kind of find out where they should navigate to. If I'm a dancer and I want to go and learn high quality movement, but these people are charging $2,000 for it, but then there's another person who I resonate more with and it's cheaper, then yeah, I'll go with that person because financially I can afford that. You know, I think what would be considered an issue is that people shouldn't feel bad for that.
No,
People
no,
shouldn't,
100%.
yeah, people shouldn't
Yeah.
feel like, damn, like I'm broke, but I need to spend my last dollar because you need that last dollar. It's like that
No,
that
no, that's not
that
what I'm saying. No.
we don't need to have that mentality. You know, at least I don't agree with it. Like if it happens and if it stays happening, then so be it. You know, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think we need to have it. But me, I'm like beyond the finance, because ultimately, like financial literacy is really based on me. I can't rely on a community to make me financially successful. Like if I don't got my shit in order, like community or not, I'm fucked. You know,
Yeah.
that's why for me it's more about the arts, and it's really more so about like figuring out like how do we progress the arts forward? You know what I mean? Like I seen an episode of Yu Yu Hakusho. This is mad funny, but there's an episode of Yu Yu Hakusho where Genkai was like passing off her techniques and her power to whoever would like win this tournament thing, right? And in the tournament, there was supposed to be this one mystery person that was evil, and like they were the Prince Kuenma was like, "Yo, we got to stop this evil person from getting Genkai's power because he can destroy the world." When they found out who it was, Yusuke Urameshi is like, "Yo, Genkai, like, why don't we just go kill this person right now? He's evil." And Genkai said something to me that stood out. She was like, "I don't care if he's evil. Like, I'm just here to pass off the technique. Whoever, whether it's good or evil, if they take the technique, they're still gonna be keeping my legacy alive. So y'all motherfuckers just fight." And I was like, wow. So she's willing to risk the destruction of the world as long as her technique is the cause of it, as long as it's progressing forward into something. You know, she's willing to be like, my shit is not good or evil, it's just what it is. And I think if we progress our arts in that nature, I feel like our arts will go a long way, you know, because now we're not being apologetic in our movement. We're not being sensitive in our movement. We're not going like, I'm moving like this because I want all the good people to digest it, and like, nah, we're just moving in our authentic selves, you know. And then whoever
Yeah.
latches onto it, they take it, and then also whoever wants to finance it, they finance it. You'll probably find a lot more financial benefits from moving in your most authentic self than you will trying to appease people in the dance community, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The flex culture is a perfect example of that. They took that whole avant-garde, put in like gas mask on, butt ass naked with chains, bone breaking, all crazy, and they made a market out of that where they can travel the world and perform that, you know.
Yeah.
But imagine you see a naked flexer with a gas mask on in a top 16 popping battle, like that would never fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man. There's so many different ways to look at it. You know, I think it's gonna be an ongoing conversation at the end of the day, like this sort of this each one teach one type thing, this culture of sharing, this culture of like looking out for each other. And, you know, despite financial well-being, like, you know, none of us do this for money. Like if you really if somebody chose popping as a career or any type of street dancing career to get rich, like I would question the sanity, right? Because really, it's just there. Like, if you talk about investment of time, if I told you I already practiced 5 hours today, and you asked me how much money I got from that, you would just be
Zero.
like, you'd be like, well, I didn't get anything from it. You know, how many
Yo.
how many hours have we put in? If we put it into something that society deems valuable, like a
Right.
degree or something, right? Like we would 10.5 years, that's like two PhDs, you know?
Yeah,
So
man.
so when you talk about how much do I value it? How much do you value it? How does the world value it? You know, does it matter? You know, at the end of
And
the
grad
day,
school, yeah.
yeah, our internal world is like what we have to live with, you know.
Word.
Anywhere you travel, you're not escaping yourself, you know. So you're gonna have to
Yeah.
deal with yourself at the end of the day. So does this art form, does it aid you? You know, does it aid your well-being? And if it does, I
Nah,
think
it depends. It depends though. Depends on how
mm,
you it depends on how you live it. If you live it in a fashion of like always wanting to get something out of the dance, then yeah, it aids you. But
yeah,
if you live it from how it's propelling you and elevating you as a being, you'll be youthful. And you see that in a lot of dancers. A lot of dancers who have done this art and have continued to advance their craft and enjoy the beauties of the craft with no delay. Not to say that they don't experience pain in their real life, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to the dance for happiness and peace of mind. They're very youthful, you know.
yeah,
It's the people that
100%.
it's the people that take their real lives and put it in the dance and make the dance a part of their real life, and then they start to look at the dance as an entity of what is this doing for me, they age. They age,
Mm,
you know, and they
mm,
often end up dying, and the dance goes on. And
I
there was no
see.
legacy for them that they left behind or anything. You know, there's nothing that they'll be remembered for because they lived
Yeah.
their life in that way.
Yeah, there's a thing that I was thinking about. I was talking to exercise physiologist, talking about like mobility and stuff, and like how much does your physical abilities dictate like the style that you end up doing, your physical limitations or
Yo,
your mobility, whether it's, like flexing where you're bone breaking and you have hypermobility in your shoulders, or, is it like for me, I always thought like what made me gravitate towards like mechanical movement or waving, right? Like, and I realized when you were talking earlier too, it's like this, like the imagination was our warm place. Like the idea of waving for me was like my life was super chaotic at the time. So this was like
mm,
where I found peace of mind. And then you start to see like Tai Chi and you're like, why do people do that?
yo,
What is this meditative style of movement? And for me, it was like, I think that is such a beautiful place to start with in dance, as far as some people are drawn to the aesthetic, but finding a style that allows you to find that warm place is the one you're gonna stick with.
yo. So for me, it's so crazy that you say that, bro. Like really crazy. For me, my life, I'm a very like patient person, and I like to assess things, and I don't like to move off of emotion or just radically react. Like I like to sit in something and really assess things for what they are. I'm always opening my door like, yo, there's a robber in here. Let me walk
Uh,
slowly. You know what I mean? Just randomly, you know?
yeah.
But aside from that, my personality, like I always attribute it to how I used to play video games. I would play a video game like Pokemon, right? And I'd go through the game, get to the gym leaders and do all that, catch all these Pokemon. And then after I beat the game, I'll be like, yo, did I want to catch all these Pokemon? Maybe I want to just catch these specific types. Then I restart it again, do that. Then I go, maybe I really just need one dude. And how could this one dude have all these? And I start just keep on modifying my journey in the game.
Yeah.
When I played Def Jam 5 in New York, I was experimenting because in that game you can pick three styles and combine three styles. I said, yo, which style combination works for me? And I would play the game and just keep working all those styles. And that mentality translated into my dance. When I first got into Life Feet, my first style was shoe tricking. And after a while, I started to just want to explore the movement of Life Feet. And I was like, okay, I'm Harlem shaking, I'm going hype, I'm whatever. And then I'm like, okay, out of all of this, like what is this shit that I really like, you know? And then what I really liked was also being pressed on the fact that, you know, Life was viewed as unoriginal. And a lot of the stuff we were doing was just a mixture of other styles being very watered down and done. So I was like, okay, what makes Life Feet original? And I started to really pay attention to the things that we used to share. And yo, like just seeing like the different foot connections and the different angles and our approach to how we constructed footwork was like, damn, like we had this all along and it was never mastered. So I took it upon myself to kind of develop a system that can work for me. But then even in that process, I was like, yo, if I do this, man, I'm gonna have knock knee for life. You know, if I do this certain move, I'm gonna have my legs are gonna be just out of tune. So I even had
Yeah.
to modify in that and figure out what movements work for me and what things work for me. But it still goes back to when I used to play Pokemon, just modifying. And I find like a peace and a sort of serenity in just writing down like things that don't work and what do work for me, and then freestyling and applying that. You know, like it's crazy
Yeah.
how a lot of dancers be like, yo, dance with freedom and like express yourself and do whatever. But yo, for me, like I find blissfulness in dancing with limitations, with saying I'm just gonna do this and see what can come out of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like a high that like I feel like you can't get. And then what makes the high even more real is when you do it around people that like have the same perspective as you. Like when I'm
Uh,
getting down with you, like yo, dude, my first trip to LA when it was me, you, Emilio, and Metal. And we were
Uh-huh.
just in that park, man. I was like, yo, I want to lap forever, yo, because the shit,
Yeah, man.
the way you guys are inspiring me, and the way I was just like, okay, I'm gonna try to do this movement with just my feet and whatever. Like the ideas that were coming out of just that limitation was like so
Yeah.
blissful. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel you on that, man. I feel you on
Yeah,
that one
man.
for sure.
It was like the time when we were in Manhattan too, like the park sessions we would have, you know? Like
Yo, word up.
yeah, I would be like to me just being in New York, like every time I go there, man, it just feels like a dream, you know? Like there's no culture shock. Like it almost feels like it's partly where I learned how to dance too, you know? Like I
Mm,
had been going there every year, every summer from like 2011 or 12, you know? And like it was almost like this check-in point. Like every time I came to New York, I would always like discover something new. Like the first time
mm,
I went to New York is the first time I saw Shoe Tricks and Light Feet and like Union Square, you know? So because I had heard about it through other street dancers, like, oh, this light feet, and like, there's this new dance style. It's like they call it getting light, and I was like,
mm.
what? Like
Mm.
a new dance style, like that's so foreign to me. Like I never even heard of new dance styles. Like really, besides like little moves that you would do, you know, it
Right.
was like a
A
style
whole
that I never
style,
heard of.
right?
Yeah, like I knew about juking, you know, I knew about all these other things, like you know, stuff that other people may have not have heard of, like you know at the time was like, you know, turfing, juking, like all this sort of stuff that were the new styles. But I was like, how did I not ever see someone get light, you know? And so then when I was riding the trains or I went to Union Square, I saw a dude do a shoe trick with a, you know, his unlaced superstars, you know? And I was like, what? Like he just flipped his shoe off, stepped on it, flipped it up, like ah,
Yo,
man, it was so
bro.
crazy, right? So, like, every time I go to New York, even when I would get down in the ciphers, it was like always a melting pot of all the styles. Like, where in LA, it was kind of like ciphers were divided by styles, and in a lot of ways.
Mm,
So when I went
mm,
to New York, it was like there's not enough poppers to just have a popping cipher, you know. So
word.
then it was like, oh, poppers were hopping in the house ciphers, and it was like, you know, all these styles under one roof, and so it was crazy, man. Like the inspiration I've gotten throughout the years from going there, the times I contemplated moving there too, like because I just felt like it was a place where I don't know, where I felt at home because, you know, with public transit and the ability to go everywhere at any time,
Yeah.
you know, and just like every night was a new spot. It was just like an adventure, you know, and I'd go for a month at a time and it would just be like endless dance, you know.
Yo, you know what's funny about you know what's funny about New York is that a little bit.
No worries.
You know what's funny about New York in that time, yo? Like I never heard of styles based on like how people know styles now. Like Tiny Love wasn't a popper when I was in New York. Tiny Love was like finger tut master, you know.
Yeah,
Big Mike wasn't a popper. Big Mike was like the dude that can like liquid body can wave. Like Storyboy wasn't a flexor. He was a mutant, you know.
yeah,
Reg Rock was a pauser, you know. Twan was a finger connector. Like you never heard this thing of like, oh yeah, he's a flexor and he specializes in it. It was like, nah, he's finger tut, bing bing fong, like, you know, and
yeah,
he would and you'd be like, damn, what's my style? And yo, you would literally be like in the crib making up a style. And yo, I swear to you, New York dancers used to have the craziest names for the shit they come up with. Like, yo, my style is the dragon flip alien style. My style is the ninja sword style. Like we all had these weird ass fucking names to our styles. I mean, yo, I'm gonna be real with you, straight up. The silencer name was like me trying to think of some weird shit. I'm almost 100% sure that Havoc's name was like coming off of some shit. Like the names we would come up with, bro, had a this super influence in our style, you know. And we got that gem from Shakalak, because Shak used to always be like, "Yo, your name is your specialty." Um,
mm,
one of the gems he used to drop on us in Union Square was that he was talking to us about the electric boogaloos. But he made it in kind of a joke. It was a funny joke. But he was like, "Yo, when you think of Poppin' Pete, you think of Poppin'. When you think of, I think it's Robot Dan, you think of Robot. You know, when you think of Creepin' Sid, you think of Creepin'. But then he'd always end the joke like, what does Sugar Pop bring? Sugar? But
Yeah,
he would say that to be like, yo, if you're making a name, make sure your name matches the movement. When somebody hears what you do, they're like,
yeah,
okay, that's why. And if your name doesn't match the movement, the name of your style should match the movement. And he always
yeah,
talked about the development of Storyboard P and his creative states when P was known as the Feet of the East. He was Professor Feet of the East because of the glides. And then Shock kind of dismantled that and was like, well, you can't be the Feet of the East if Michael Jackson's known for the moonwalk. And it was such a weird perspective because it's like, how does that even make sense? But then when you think about it, it's like you advocate for having the best footwork in the world, the public world will always still see Michael Jackson. So they would just be like, oh, you're doing some Michael Jackson stuff. So
mm,
he then had to create the mutant character where now this is mutation. So now there's glides in there and there's still high level glides, but it's being carried by this mutant movement where now when you see his style, it's like, that's mutation. You don't equate it with anything else but
mm.
mutation. And like Shock breaking down that for us really helped our individuality. It made us wild as far as creators. Like we would experiment with so much shit to the point where we didn't have that LA slow pace of just mastering one thing and moving on. It was always like, I'm an alien, I'm a ninja, I'm a robot. Like we always kept jumping. But when we found our niche and we found out what it is that we wanted and you sat in it and lived in it, seeing that dude come back after like months of just sitting in his style and he's on Union Square like pulling something out, you like, yo, son.
Damn.
He's like,
In
yeah,
the
so
lab.
this is my new style. And it's like, oh shit, like they got a new style. And
That's
almost
we got the quarantine styles now, man. We got pulling some
yo,
stuff out
I'm
now.
telling you, man, if we have an event people gotta come back out with some new shit. People gotta be coming with some. Everybody gotta look different. Like everybody gotta come out with some new shit. Like names gotta be different. We can't know each other no more. Like you can't come back as D Soul. You gotta be like, yo, through quarantine, my name is something else, yo, for real.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be like, no, I don't even know what I'd be called, man. It'd be like an upgraded version, though.
Yo, dog, yo,
Like
yeah,
they call it's like diesel is like yeah, diesel engines, but then like I'm fucking Tesla right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
D Tesla.
just call me D Tesla.
Yo, son, yo, I was super inspired by like MF Doom for that, yo. Like to even see like him, he was like Zev Love X and KMD, and then like his elevation was very very crazy for me because he did it at such an old age. And I know people always like to put like when you hit your 30s or your late 20s, it's like it's over. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's over for you. But like Doom was like 28 and was like, yo, I'm gonna make this Doom character. And then created another character, King Ghidra, then created another character. And you just kept creating all these different characters. And I'm like, yo, this dude is making a mad different rhyming personas and making records about these different characters. And I'm like, damn, yo, like it would just motivate me and drive my movement because I'm like, if this dude can do that with his words and just the way he
Yeah, there's no
talks,
limit,
there's
man.
no
We just
limit,
gotta
bro.
find that switch in our head
Yeah,
where we're like, oh, yo, I'm just access this being right now. Click, and then it's just like
yeah,
your
man.
movement just comes out different. You just have to have these segments in your brain of for different mentalities and approaches. Like, oh, this guy right here, and then write about that character and like their emotional tendencies and also like the way that the rules of the way that they move. Like where's he from and da da da.
Yeah, man.
Like but
I
really
def
break it down.
yeah, I definitely like as a New Yorker, you definitely learned that getting into the dance scene. What I learned from LA though was being that LA is the mecca of popping and pop locking. Like LA and popping for me became what like Germany and France is for Europeans in ballet. Like LA and popping like really structures you. And not the culture of not so much the culture of LA, but really so much the atmosphere. Like when you go to Los Angeles, once you leave Los Angeles, you start to realize that like any suburban or like kind of like tropical, more nature influence regions, like in Florida or Portland or Colorado, you start to realize that your time slows down from like New York City or New Jersey or Boston. And yo,
Yeah.
that shit will structure the fuck out of you. Like just labbing in LA for me, or taking my movement. Like I would sit in New York and be super creative, like almost like I'm looking at shit on like a magnetic grid. Like I'm like, all right, this technique, that technique, that technique. Then I put it all in this bank, and then I go to LA and be able to just like feed each technique one by one. It's like, whoo, yo, the combination of that shit, you'll come out a whole new monster, yo. And then vice versa for the dudes who are in LA and they're like in this structure, but then they want to expand. They come to New York and they get like their shit blows up. You know, they be able to.
That's the camp, bro. That's the camp. Yo, and then if you want to experience some other shit, you go to the Bay and Memphis, you know, like
Oh, yo,
it's
it's
wildin', man. We got
dude.
so much in the States, you know, it's crazy.
Yo, even talking about like Mona, like I learned so much from Mona in thesis, because one thing about women that I noticed in dance is that no matter how structured a woman is as far as like her movement or how free she is, she's always colorful. And I think that's the beauty of women in dance. And I think us as men, like we should look to a lot of women to for knowledge and even like information, because of the fact of how colorful they can be in any segment of movement. Like men can be colorful too, but I think sometimes with men, there's a that level of masculinity almost makes us black and white. Like we're gonna be like we're gonna tut like this forever, you know.
Yeah, it's
Whereas,
less dimensional, right? Like
yeah,
it's
like
yeah.
women fuck around and take a tut here and take a tut there and put a tut here because of the colorfulness of them. And when I watch Mona and like to see how she was like blending styles, and yo, when you think about how dudes blend styles, sometimes it's horrible, bro. Like dudes be crumping, then they start tutting, and they start waving, and it's just like a whole
Why
mess.
you talking about me, bro? Like,
Nah, not even, not yeah.
why you talking about me, bro?
Nah, I'm yo, to be honest, not to put a stereotype on it, but like you be seeing those dudes like in the world of dance battles and shit, like that's like the
Mhm.
TikTok dudes that's like they mix everything. And it's not a bad thing, it's just that that's how they like to dance. But their mixtures are almost so bland. But then to see a woman like she got the hip hop bounce, and then she takes a crump movement, but she doesn't go full crump. She does like one crump arm, puts the
Yeah.
concept here. I'm just like, God damn, this
Yeah,
woman is
she
like, it's like,
stayed within her story. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do this style. It was like, no, this style just reflects the way I feel in this one way. It's just a part of the story. It's just
yo,
so dimension, like so many dimensions to that, so many styles to her emotion that she can really just continue the narrative, you know.
she had such a power to her that to me was like, damn, I need to learn
Yeah,
how to be more colorful in my movement. You know what I mean?
yeah, for real.
I need to learn how to be, and I feel like we can learn that. But for sure, like LA will like, or more suburban, slow down areas will structure you, and then like New York, Jersey, Boston. I mean, stacking styles. Yo, the creative bubble of like shit that Stacks was able to bring together with those concepts, and then having each different person from each different style just come up with those concepts, like
Yeah, I
ridiculous,
gotta
bro.
make it out next time it happens, man, for
Yo,
sure.
telling
Yeah.
you,
Hey,
dog, it's
man,
wild
I gotta teach this class right now, brother. But
for sure.
yeah, we'll get another one in soon, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yo, these are getting deep. We did like 3 sessions this time.
Dude, 3 hours, bro.
Yo,
Easy.
yo, man.
All right, brother. Thank you
Yo,
again for your time, man.
thank you, man. Be safe,
All
man.
right, all right. You too, brother. Peace.
Peace.